Well, let me start by introducing myself. My name is Peter Gong. I'm an artist here in Mission. I was born in Mission. I was raised up on the Wannock Reserve in Maple Ridge. And I'm a direct descendant of the people who lived on the Stave River, the Wannock people. My grandmother, who was raised up in the same reserve on Wannock, married a Squamish Nation man. And so my mother was born in North Vancouver, so that actually means I belong to the Squamish Nation. But I have very strict, and you're going to find that most First Nations people here in the valley have very strong family connections with the rest of the nations here in the valley, as well as across the border, Nooksack, Lummi, very strong family connections up and down and around this local area. So yeah, I've worked my whole life in the forest industry, and up until 2009, I was a head shipper in a lumber mill in Maple Ridge. When that mill shut down in 2009, they had every intention of starting back up, but they didn't. So that left me free to do something totally different with my life. And so I went back to school. I started looking at university courses. I was leaning towards working in the school system with young Aboriginal students. And but in the meantime, I always had 2 or 3 knives, and I'd connected with my nephew George Hemming, who's an artist as well. And I worked on a couple projects with him as volunteers, and slowly started building my skill set, associated apprentice with George Pena, a Coast Salish artist here in the valley. Tom Patterson, he was trained by the Hunt, so you could say a Kwakwaka'wakw artist, but he's Nechanoff. And with their mentoring, I was able to build the skill set that you can see around here, and just my passion to learn and my drive to get better at it has allowed me to continue to do it and make a living at it. Part of the location of where I am, I'm close to mills, I'm close to the forest. I actually have block cutters. Block cutter is someone who cuts shake blocks out in the bush, and what they're doing is they're going and hunting the wood that's been deadened down and left behind by the old loggers, and they saw it into 24-inch lengths, and they bring it to the mills and sell it to them. And so they're taking stuff that was considered waste and making good value out of it. And that's how I get these big round blocks here, these half moons. Shake block cutters, I put out the word to the ones I know that I'm looking for yellow cedar, and when they come across it, they'll bring it to me, and then I have to coffee up with cash and buy it. I make art pieces such as rattles and such, but they can also be used during cultural ceremony. So I actually have First Nations people that are involved with cultural practices, and they'll come and purchase a rattle. Something like this is a hummingbird, and I designed and painted baby hummingbirds on the bentwood box. So when we use a rattle during ceremony, we use them upside down like this. That's so the spirit of the hummingbird doesn't escape. But basically what happens is, when you create a piece of art like a rattle or a mask, and it's used during cultural performance, it's no longer considered to be just a possession. It's considered to be a living being and a direct connection to our ancestors. So they're alive after that, once they're used during performance. And that's why we'll use things like our hummingbird rattle upside down. They'll have, like when a mask is being danced, they'll have what they call an attendant. And he will follow the mass dancers around because they cannot necessarily see where they're going. And anytime they get to the peripheral of the dance area where there may be a chance of them tripping or falling, he'll rattle his rattle down low, and then he'll know to turn a certain direction. But a piece like this is actually a raven clapper, so it would also be used upside down like this. So that's carved from yellow cedar, and this just goes from that to a bigger piece like this, which is my Raven and the First Man. This is one of my larger signature pieces. And when I carved this, took me 2 or 3 years to finish because I didn't know where I was going to go with it, basically. So what I did I carved the first man as part of the creation story, clinging to the jaw of the raven, but I decided that it needed to be both, first man, first woman, so you'll actually see two faces. And so you can't have the human race without both. So that's my raven and the first man. I spent probably 3 years learning how just to do this, and got to the point where I was satisfied with the quality of the pieces I was creating before I actively sought to sell them to someone else. And usually it was a family member. That's the way it goes as an artist. You get support from friends and family, and they kind of keep you going. And after a while, you build up contacts and stuff, and before you know it, you're selling stuff all over the world. You know, I had a couple from Switzerland come just a few weeks ago and buy a piece of art, and they just walked in the door. Basically, I make bentwood boxes that go from like 1 1/4 inch square to as big as I can get the wood now. And our ancestors would use bentwood boxes as storage containers for food, for regalia, for personal possessions, and as memorial boxes. They would even put their dead in a box. We like making this kind of stuff. It's a challenge, and that's what life's all about. So I take raw wood, process it into boards with the bandsaw, with the thickness planer, with the table saw, laminate it all together, and I can do panels. I can do round panels. I can do bentwood boxes, and it just keeps on going on and on and on. Yeah. You can never be satisfied with where you're at. You always need to be pushing your boundaries, your comfort zone. As an artist, if you want to keep developing as an artist, and I see so many amazing artists out there that I know I have a long ways to go. I like to say that I'm just starting to get comfortable with form line. I have other artists come in and they want to point me in a direction, and when you get input from artists that have been doing it their whole life, then you have to listen, right? And sometimes that means changing the way you draw things, the way things are connected, and the way cuts are made. One of my models when I first started, you might think this is funny, was to be so good that they couldn't ignore you anymore. And I think I more or less achieved that with the boxes anyways, because I have some very well-known, some of the upper echelons of the artists in Vancouver, West Coast Native artists. They'll contact me, inquire about boxes, whether I can get them made and what the costs are. So they know I'm out there